Will Ole Miss quarterback Trinidad Chambliss be granted a sixth year of eligibility, or will he be forced to declare for the 2026 NFL Draft? What's up, draft fans? It's your boy DT back, welcoming you to episode 7 of Draft Talk with DT, another live version because I appreciate everybody for tuning in last week to episode 6 that we did live, which was the Ty Simpson Declaration Day and film dive. Tonight, we're going to be talking about Trinidad Chambliss, the Ole Miss Rebels quarterback. Obviously, a rising quarterback throughout this process and becoming a lot of Jets fans' favorites if they don't want to tread in the waters of Dante Moore, right? It seems like we're going to miss out on Fernando Mendoza to the Vegas Raiders at number 1. So we will see what happens with the Jets specifically at 2. If they want to go and take a Ty Simpson, who we talked about last week, or they tread in the waters of Trinidad Chambliss, Carson Beck, Garrett Nussmeier. Hit the like button on your way in before we dive into this. Subscribe if you are new to the channel. I really appreciate everybody who has helped me get to the 1,300 subscriber mark. Just this past weekend, we hit 1,300. We're well on our way to 1,400. So really appreciate if we can get there. We're on the road to 2,000 subs. I'm still trying to plan some sort of cool giveaway for everybody in the chat once we hit 2,000. So I appreciate everybody for hitting the like and subscribe button. Tank for Ty, I see you in the chat already. Cisco, my man, what's up? Cisco, I appreciate you making my dream come true. T. Chambliss film. Absolutely, yeah. I have 11 plays in the hopper of Trinidad Chambliss from the college football playoffs. So we will go over both games there. Those are 2 of the 3 games I watched. The Georgia game, obviously, and the Miami game, the 2 that we're going to go over on film, and I'll break it all down for you guys, and then a little sneak peek of what's to come on Friday. 1, I will be doing a tale of the tape between Ty Simpson and Trinidad Chambliss. We'll be stacking up all 10 quarterback traits side by side and grading them out just based on the tape alone. See how they stack up, just to give you guys some of the secondary options in this quarterback market. Not saying Ty Simpson is the secondary guy, but this is currently my quarterback 3, Ty Simpson, and quarterback 4 in Trinidad Chambliss, and we'll know more, which we'll get into, about exactly what he's looking at in terms of the NFL draft. Is he going to go back for his 6th year in college at Ole Miss? So that's just a peek ahead of what's to come. And then I do have a pre-recorded Friday night. I'll be joined by Dom C. I'm going to pre-record a Senior Bowl primer. He and I will be down there, as well as Jake Asman, sharing an Airbnb in Mobile, and we'll be covering the draft, or the Senior Bowl, for the 3 days that I'll be there, Tuesday through Thursday. So excited to get Dom on and talk about all the Senior Bowl prospects that he's been in the weeds on much longer than I have. I've really only been studying the quarterbacks and the wide receivers. Everybody that you guys see on the channel is the guys that I've done the deep dives on, mostly quarterbacks, and then I'm digging into wide receivers now. And then I have a list of edge rushers that are going to be in Mobile, and including R. Mason Thomas, Zion Young, Romello Height, TJ Parker, Cassius Howell. So I have a lot of edge rushers to catch up on before I get to Mobile. But that's why we're going to have Dom C on the channel. Probably going to hit the feed maybe over the weekend, right before the college National Football Championship on Monday. You'll definitely have that, because then we'll be doing a preview of the national championship, because I feel like I'm not big into the college previews, but this one is different because you have Fernando Mendoza, who is a top draft eligible player, and obviously Carson Beck, who some people have an affinity for. I'm not really the Carson Beck guy, as you guys probably know all well and good. But Cisco, oh man, I appreciate you guys dropping a 20 spot already. Super chat. Thanks for the NSFW film breakdown. Yeah, there is quite a lot to like about Trinidad Chambliss, and thank you so much for that super chat. That is amazing. Trinidad Chambliss is fun. There's some things that I like, some things that I don't like. I'll wear it, the badge. I'm the Kyler Murray guy, apparently, in the streets. So if you're going to advocate for Kyler Murray, it's hard to not advocate for a guy with a similar body style like Trinidad Chambliss. So I'm not saying I love the guy, but we'll see as we go through the film where I exactly see him stacking up. But thank you so much, Cisco, for the super chat. This episode is not brought to you by DoorDash, because they can't pay me enough to keep doing those deliveries, guys. So like I said last week, I never ask you for super chats, but yeah, we're probably over the DoorDash thing. It was fun while it lasted, but it's really not that great. And I hate driving at night with all these Southern drivers out here. No disrespect to any of the Southern drivers in the chat, but it's quite a mess here at night. And yeah, so this episode not sponsored by DoorDash, but Cisco, I greatly appreciate that. Thank you. So getting into the Trinidad Chambliss drama, I guess we'll call it. And that's not really a fair way to put it in terms of like his perspective, but what's going on with the league and everything like that. Pete Themel, who covers the college football world very well, he says lawyers for Ole Miss quarterback Trinidad Chambliss plan to file suit against the NCAA this weekend in state court in Mississippi for a preliminary injunction to secure Chambliss's eligibility for 26. Lawyer Tom Mars will work with noted Mississippi trial lawyer William Liston. His attorney says, quote, "We'll be prepared to seek an injunction that would allow Trinidad to play next season unless the NCAA Appeals Committee overturns the denial of the waiver. Before then, we currently anticipate filing a lawsuit." So obviously we know that the appeal was denied, and now he does have to either file this lawsuit, which they have drawn up. His legal counsel has drawn up and drafted a lawsuit, as Ross Dellinger says here, on behalf of the quarterback, and plans to file the suit in Mississippi State in the coming days. This was just posted 2 days ago by Ross Dellinger, and then Dane Brugler quote tweeted it, noted NFL draft guru, creator of one of the best draft guides, The Beast. If you're not already familiar at The Athletic, Dane does a great job in The Beast with his draft content. But he says NFL teams are watching this closely. Trinidad Chambliss really wants one more year in college, but if this lawsuit doesn't work, he will need to quickly shift to the pre-draft process. The All-Star circuit, please come to Senior Bowl, and Combine could really help him maximize his draft grade. I said it selfishly about Ty Simpson last week. I'm going to reiterate that same thing to Trinidad Chambliss. If this does not work and you're not able to get that 6th year of eligibility, please accept an invite to Mobile, maybe Shrine Bowl, whatever. There's going to be all-star circuits for you to join if you so choose, and you would easily be all eyes on at either one at this point. So I would really be excited if Trinidad Chambliss accepted an invite to Senior Bowl. They are announcing the Senior Bowl roster tomorrow at 8 a.m. So excited to see the full roster, and that's why I'm really happy to have Dom on at that perfect time, right when the roster drops for the Panini Senior Bowl. So I would say selfishly, if it doesn't work for you, definitely try to do all you can in the pre-draft process to elevate your stock, because this is gearing up to be like a 3-ish quarterback draft, maybe 4, right, in the top 50 picks, which is kind of a tough, scene. It's pretty thin at the quarterback position right now. So we'll see how it all works out for Trinidad. And then the final one I have here, Trinidad inked a deal with the Ole Miss Rebels that would have him return to Oxford for the 2026 season, but his status for next fall has now been revealed following the waiver request. After his college football playoff loss to Miami, Chambliss weighed in on what his future may hold. God has been so good to me and this team, said Chambliss, who passed for 277 yards and a touchdown. It's been a great ride, and I wouldn't want to do it with any other people, whether it's coaches, players, people in the offices. It's just been a great ride. And then the final quote in bold there is, and hopefully I get to do it again next year. So we obviously know where the mentality of Trinidad Chambliss probably is, right? He wants to get that 6th year of eligibility. The entire circumstance around the 2022 season, that is the one in question, right? His second season at Ferris State, he had a respiratory issue and he was medically redshirted, but they were planning on redshirting him anyway, from what the rumors say. And he was also never documented for treatment for the ailment that he is claiming to have been redshirted for. So the combination of those couple of things makes it a little bit difficult. Just playing devil's advocate on the side of the NCAA against Trinidad Chambliss is those are some of the things that are being alleged out there. I don't know exactly all of the rumors response like within all of this, but if that is the report that there's no documented treatment of, I guess it's tonsillitis, was not necessarily the respiratory issue, but if that's what it is and that's all true, then maybe that does work against him and he is forced to declare for the NFL draft anyway. But that was his second collegiate season in 2022. So you can already tell that Trinidad Chambliss is an older prospect. If he declared for the draft this year, he will turn 24 on August 24th. So like at the start of preseason, or excuse me, end of preseason, he'll be turning 24, entering his rookie season. So you can already see that there's probably a floor in terms of his talent, just given his age. And if he goes back to school, then he's 25 by the time he becomes a rookie in 2027. And if you're not anticipating being a starter right away next year, even, then you're not looking at being a starter till you're 26, almost 27. I feel like that's really tough just in terms of the career timeline of a quarterback in the NFL. I know they can play until 52 at this point, it seems like, except, for a couple quarterbacks, age has been showing lately. Even, Stafford banged up a little bit. So it's going to be a tough decision, obviously, for the NCAA against this lawsuit. I don't know how everything's going to shake out. I don't know what the decision-making process looks like, how quickly the decision-making process will happen. Technically, the declaration day for anybody who's already out of the college football playoff is tomorrow, January 14th. So I'm not sure. Can they, grant him a little bit more time if he is still pending with this lawsuit and the declaration date passes? I don't assume that they're going to be able to file all this and go through with it all before the deadline tomorrow. So a really interesting circumstance for Chambliss. But Ferris State is where he came from. This is where all this stems from, a Division II school. He transferred to Ole Miss just this 1 year. So he's a 1-year starter at Ole Miss, a 1-year starter at Ferris State, but they were Division II champions in 2024. He has 25 games played, 16 starts, one in his, I guess it's redshirt sophomore year of Ferris State, and then 15 starts in the championship season, which was his redshirt junior year. So we'll see. 4 years at Ferris State, 1 year at Ole Miss. Do you really want a 6th-year quarterback in 2027? Even a 5th-year quarterback in 2026 is kind of hard to digest. But if you're not looking in the market of Fernando Mendoza, Dante Moore, even Ty Simpson, maybe this is where you feel like you would rather be with Trinidad Chambliss. I'll open it up to some of the questions before we start diving into more of the tape. Let's see what we got here. Not sure if you guys are talking about Chambliss at 16 or if that's Tank for Ty's influence on you guys talking about Simpson at 16. I would not take Trinidad Chambliss at 16. That's definitely not. Cisco says, guy wants to be a 30-year-old in college. Makes me second guess my love. I mean, I wouldn't just hold age against him. I mean, if these guys feel like they have a chance to win the national championship, you have so many opportunities to do it before you have to, I guess, grow up and go to the NFL. I don't want to phrase it like he's immature, but you know what I mean? Like, to step up to the next level, like there's only so many years you have. So we'll see exactly how it plays out. But it's a very interesting case, and the tape is really fun at times, and there's times where it's not a lot of fun, and the Ole Miss offense is really, weird at times, especially with all the, Lane Kiffin leaving and not allowing some of the coaches to coach at the back end of the year. Certainly strange. Oregon says, obviously he will make more at Ole Miss than the NFL. I don't know what the slotted spot would be if he, hypothetically, the Jets picked him at 44. I don't know what all the guarantees and everything would look like, but if Chambliss is a fringe top 100 pick or top 125 pick, that's in the 4th round. So you're definitely looking at a significantly smaller sum of money there for sure, Oregon. Yeah, it seems like Tank for Ty was talking, obviously, about Simpson and not Chambliss here. Oregon again, he says he has no legal case based on facts and is only hoping the NCAA backs down. No documents. It never happened. Yeah, that is what is being alleged exactly. So it is strange. There were comments made by his attorney that I don't really – it's 3 paragraphs long. I don't feel like reading it verbatim. So it is kind of strange. I guess my best advice would be put your name in the committee and see what happens, right? I think each team is allowed 3 to 5 or 1 to 3 prospects that they're allowed to put into the advisory committee and try to get that valuation and see what would happen. Like, what is their feedback from the NFL? Are they a first round? Are they a second round? Or is it a go back to school? And right now, those are not right now, but historically, those are really the only 3 options that prospects get. It's a first round valuation, a second round valuation, and go back to school. So maybe you get a 50-50 with Chambliss in the advisory committee and it says go back to school. And I don't know exactly like what the committee takes into, like what variables, what factors. I don't know if strength of class is a big thing, because if it's strength of class, I would say he's probably a second round pick. But if it's just based on, tape study and whatever the scouts and everything have been kind of aggregating to these committee members, then maybe that's a whole different story. So I would advise him to at least talk to that committee and see what they get back, but it could really go 50-50. Michael Levinson, I appreciate you tuning in, man. He says Dylan Moore or Simpson. So I've been pretty steadfast that I have Mendoza as 1, and then like Moore was like a 1B. And I don't want to say I'm moving off Moore as a 1B. I would just probably put him more comfortably at the 2. And then Ty Simpson is still a little bit of a gap from Moore to Simpson. But I am really intrigued with Ty Simpson. And I don't think if you get him at 16, like you pass up on Moore and say you like hypothetically you trade down with Cleveland to 6 and they want to come up and get Dante Moore. I don't think passing on Dante Moore and getting Ty Simpson at like 16 or even trading up from 16 with some of the trade back assets from 2, then you pick at maybe 6 and you pick at, 12, 10, 11, to get, Ty Simpson there. And you come away with whoever you get at 6, maybe it's like Ruben Bain or Makai Lemon, and then you get Ty Simpson at 10, 11, or 12. I wouldn't hate that either. So right now I'd say Moore better than Simpson, but I think, and you said now Blewett has them all close. Yeah, I mean, the more you watch of these guys, that's the thing. And we're not in the one game vacuum of like, oh, it's just Dante Moore having a pretty so-so game against Texas Tech and then, getting destroyed again by Indiana and their, number 2 defense. So in the totality of his film review, and I did the early tape study, like I think it was late October, early November, I came out with my first Dante Moore film review. At that time, obviously things have changed between now, but I don't think when you look at the whole body of work, it's worth really, like how much of a multiplier of like weight do you put on some of these games? Obviously they're big game situations, playoff situations. So it all weighs into it, but the fact that they're all close enough is enough for me to be, positive from a Jets perspective, because the more uncertainty there is, the better the Jets have of landing whoever they think their guy is potentially, right? I got into it a little bit with Yo Holmes. A lot of you guys might have seen it in Jake's chat earlier this morning, and it was really just like a misspeak on my part. I said there is no like general consensus, and his rebuttal was, yeah, there is a consensus. It's Fernando Mendoza, and yes, I guess like draft prognosticator consensus, it is certainly a consensus that Fernando Mendoza is the majority number 1 guy. But what I was really trying to get across was, when you look around the league, there's a lot of people like Ben Albright and Ted Nugent and a couple other people that I respect that talk to scouts that say, oh, not so fast, Lee Corso, right? I think Dante Moore could be number 1 for a lot of these teams. And maybe it's not the Raiders specifically who's number 1, which really that's all that matters in the Jets scheme of things, is who the Raiders want at number 1. But the more uncertainty there is, the more gray area, the more blanks that are needed to be filled throughout this process. It just helps the Jets, in my opinion. So I'm really excited to see like the year that Trevor Lawrence came out and there was like, 5 quarterbacks, Fields, Wilson, Lance, Mac Jones. I'm probably forgetting one, but like all those guys, and they came out with the article of like 24 teams had Zach Wilson listed as their second best quarterback. I would like to see what that article reads this year, because I feel like you would really get some conflicting answers at that point. Michael with the follow-up, would I take a quarterback at 2 or 100% rather trade out? I'm still in the camp of you take Dante Moore. You hope you don't organically pick number 2 again in the draft. Somebody said CJ Stroud is like the comp to him. And I get it. CJ Stroud looked abysmal and was like literally pooping down his leg for 3.5 quarters until, the strip sack fumble on Rodgers. And that really kind of opened things up. And they came alive in the fourth quarter. But if you think Dante Moore could be CJ Stroud, who even if he's like the 16th best quarterback, which I don't think he's that low, CJ Stroud in the league right now, if you think he can be a top half of the league passer, you take that quarterback at 2 and you don't look back. Now, everything that makes him a top half of the league passer, right? A development system, infrastructure in place in terms of coaching and personnel and everything in the environment needs to be conducive for him to become a top half of the league passer, right? It's not going to be, all right, we're going to hold you up. You don't have to hold us up, Zach. And then obviously we put the weight of the entire franchise on a kid from Provo. So it does matter. And all those things take into account. But if they think that he is worth a top half of the league passer in his rookie contract, you have to take the swing. Addy, I can't chug enough water, man. The cotton mouth is real. Appreciate you tuning in, Addy. Tank for Ty, I see it. Me saying he's quarterback 3 is not, maybe you're not directing this at me, but I see it with Ty Simpson. I told you, it gives me all the best Duke Daniel Jones vibes, and I don't mean that in like a negative way. Like, it's absolutely a positive thing. He can beat you with his escapability. Tune in Friday, Tank for Ty. I think you'll really like it. I'm gonna actually give grades on all the traits that I use. I use 10 traits to scout each position, and I use for a quarterback. I use arm strength, size, pocket presence, and escapability, mobility, accuracy, poise, mechanics, release, anticipation, decision-making, football IQ, and leadership. So I will break down Chambliss versus Ty Simpson in all 10 of those traits and give not final grades, but at least tape grades through the, 4 or 5 games that I've seen in this process. Oregon. Yeah, I know Dylan Gabriel was one at one time. Todd McShay is a little off his rocker. But in the same, in like a weird way, that's where I can see Trinidad Chambliss being taken, right? I think it was pick 64 for Dylan Gabriel, and it's like kind of funny. They're both like the undersized, high productive passers in college. The only difference is, and I guess they both have a lot of starts, right? Trinidad has 30 starts at the collegiate level through Ferris State and Ole Miss, but I think Dylan Gabriel had like a little bit more than that. I think he had like 30 plus or 40 plus starts. I could be mistaken on the number of starts he had. Nate, because I don't have the stamina to do that. Why would I talk about something so negative, man? I can't do that. That would ruin the purpose of smoking. If I smoked and just got on here and was so miserable, I don't know, man. To each his own. I like the draft. I like the offseason, the team building process. I'm really excited for all of that. So that's why the shift quickly became on this channel draft focused, probably around the deadline when we acquired the picks, but maybe even slightly earlier than that when I started watching these prospects. Even in the early summer portions when it was like the Klubniks and the Sellers and the Allers and Nussmeyers of the world, and it was a completely new, like different landscape of quarterbacks. I was like really interested in that. So I've always had an ear towards it, an eye towards it, so to speak. And in 2 weeks, I'll be down in Mobile, and I'm really excited for that. I can't wait. Yeah, Cisco, I'm really excited for the Friday episode. I'm going to go right from having a live stream about it, and then I'm immediately going to go on with Dom in a pre-recorded that's going to come out. Somebody asked me about Tomlin in the chat. Would I do it? Obviously. Yeah, I mean, clearly. Any coach like that would be an upgrade, especially over Aaron Glenn. There's not many coaches I would, I like Tomlin a lot. Obviously, I feel like sometimes the message just gets a little stale in one spot for so long. But they have a history of this. Like they're a very well-run franchise. Bill Cowher stepped away to do TV. I think Tomlin's going to do the same. So I would obviously at least call and see if he's interested. But I believe he has a no-trade clause. I heard that entering last offseason because Tomlin was on the hot seat via fans. and then they had to come out and say that they're sticking with him. I believe Omar Khan did, but there's a no trade clause in place for Tomlin. So would I give up the number 2 pick for Tomlin? Probably. To your point, Matty P, what would I give up? I would probably give up the 2nd overall pick. But it's such a hard thing, because if he does have a no trade clause, why would he waive it? One, to come to the Jets if you're just having that misery mindset, but also why would he want to deplete the Jets' best opportunity of having a chance at a quarterback if he was going to come here? So it's like a double-edged sword. I think he's going to go to TV, let his contract go, and then maybe we see like a Sean Payton type of deal next year. Yeah, Ty Simpson also just officially signed his papers today to go to the draft. I was tweeting up something about that before I went live. He had offers. Miami, Tennessee, I think somewhere else also had an offer for him between $4.5 to $6.5 million, and he officially signed his paperwork today. So I think that means that he's not going back. Is this the most head coach openings? I don't think so. 9 is a lot. 9 is a lot, especially considering it should be 10 with the Jets, just being, realistic. 9 is a lot. 9 is a lot. Why a pick for Tomlin? Because he has a no trade clause, and that's the only way to get out of his contract. The Steelers aren't just going to let him go. 6.5 is peanuts, which was confusing, because if Ty Simpson was getting lured out of the NFL draft by Miami for 6.5, who notably never wants to recruit a high school quarterback again, at 6.5, do we really think Dante Moore was getting $3.5 million more than Ty Simpson? I don't know if that's realistic. I think that $10 million valuation was truly plucked out of thin air. All right, I think we're pretty caught up with the questions. Hopefully he comes out. I think you're talking about Chambliss, Oregon. Hopefully he comes out. Yeah, like I said, more quarterbacks, the better. I want all of them to do well, create uncertainty at the top of the draft. The Raiders aren't, the most model franchise for picking the right quarterback in the draft. So if there's ever a chance, and they have a head coach opening, so there is a chance that, whatever coach they like wants to take more of a Dante Moore style instead of a Fernando Mendoza. I think they both do things well, and Fernando Mendoza really runs the Indiana system well, and I don't want to say he can't run other systems, but what would it look like if it was a different system, Like hypothetically, you switch Dante Moore and Fernando Mendoza in that game last week. What is the outcome? Does, Dante Moore probably doesn't have 5 touchdowns and 3 incompletions against Oregon, but I also don't think Fernando Mendoza lights up the world against Indiana's defense either. If Woody gave Tomlin 1% of the Jets, he will waive the NTC. He might. I mean, would he want ownership of the Jets? Maybe. I mean, it's something, it's valued at $9.1 billion. So the math people, what is 1% of that? Is it like 900,000? I don't know. Am I off? Is it 900 million? 900,000? What's 1%? Somebody with a math degree, tell me in the chat, because I can't do the math right now. But with that, I think we can turn to the film. First, I do have one other thing I do want to show everybody. Just looking at some of the strengths and weaknesses of Trinidad before we actually get into the tape. 6 foot, 200 pounds are his estimated measurables. So obviously super, super undersized. 0-star recruit, 2-year starter, 1 at Ferris State. Like I mentioned, 25 games played, 16 total starts. And then 15, I believe, starts, or 14 at Ole Miss. His stats this year: 66.1% completion percentage, 3,937 yards, 22 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, and he added 527 rush yards and 8 touchdowns on the ground. So certainly a dual threat, over 4,000 total yards, almost 4,500 total yards, 30 total touchdowns, and only 3 interceptions. So very, very good touchdown to interception ratio. The 3,937 yards led the SEC in passing yards. So a couple things that I just want, to make aware before we hop into the tape. And sometimes I make the mistake of showing this after we watch the tape, but I feel like this is more important to show beforehand. Some of the things that I do like about Trinidad Chambliss is when they get him out on the move, they change his launch point. Some of the off-platform throws he makes are pretty fun, even when he's moving to the left, mostly to the right. But I do like that. And then I love his mobility and escapability. I think he does a really good job of when the play breaks down, he can get out of the way and, avoid pressure to sacks. And then I think he can beat you to the edge on some of those zone read concepts, some of those, play action sprint outs, and then he just has to run to the corner. We saw Justin Fields do that far too many times. Justin Fields would just bootleg out though, and he would just run to the sidelines and get like 6 or 7 yards where he's not even looking to try to throw the ball downfield. At least Chambliss, when he does it, he for the most part keeps his eyes downfield. Two of the areas that I thought he needed some work, and again, they're not weaknesses, so to speak. I don't like calling them weaknesses. They're just more like needs work, because I don't want to like say he can never, ever do this just because it didn't show up on tape. You obviously want these things to be more evident on tape, but there was only like a trace amount of evidence of anticipation. Some of them were good throws that were dropped. Some of them were just a tick late on the, trying to throw it into a window, and he didn't quite get it there. So anticipation, I was going to knock him a little bit. And accuracy, I feel like sometimes even on some of the catches, they're really outside of frame catches, and they don't necessarily have the best ball placement on them, even though they are a completion. So again, it's like the box score says it's a 27-yard catch, but if you look, like the guy's really extending out of his frame to make that catch. So maybe the height plays into all of that, right? He has to kind of like throw it higher to get it over his line, similar to a Kyler Murray, right? In that capacity. And then obviously I'm not going to say it's a weakness of his, but it's something that certainly needs to be, coached around and coached up in a sense, is his size. Like he needs to learn to play at the NFL level at 6 foot, 200. And that might not even be his truest measurable. He could come in at like 5'11 and 3/4 and 100 and near 205 pounds. And it's like, dang, you're like really, really short now. So we'll see what the full measurables are on him. But I do think anticipation and accuracy are the two works for improvement, I guess, traits for him. You can teach accuracy. Sometimes it's a mechanic problem, Cisco. It's obviously very important with timing, yes. And I do think he plays well within the timing of the offense on the timing-based plays. It is a lot of like RPO-ish stuff and like wonky formations at Ole Miss. So I'm not going to say it's like a phony offense, because I'm not like well-versed in what the offenses look like across the league. But I will say it does look different than watching Ty Simpson, watching Fernando Mendoza, watching Dante Moore. It does look a little different coming from Ole Miss. So with all of that being said, the reason everybody probably tuned in, let's get to the film. I have to remove other media before adding that screen. Of course, StreamYard is going to give me issues putting this up. All right. We'll go full screen. I have 11 plays, but I am going to go slower through them so that I can see your questions in real time and then react to those questions, instead of running through all 11 plays, taking 20, 25 minutes, and then having your questions backloaded and then being confused in the timeline of everything. So once I get my pen set up, we will go. Tom Brady says, draft Bain Jr. You can get Arch still. It's a risk if Jets aren't the worst team in the NFL. If anybody is operating under the, notion that they're just going to be bad and get Arch Manning from inside one Jets drive, I think that tells you everything that needs to be said about the Jets. I don't think that's how they're operating. Fans can big brain their way into getting Arch Manning onto the Jets. I don't think that's necessarily realistic, but the Jets have 4 opportunities to get to the top of the draft next year. Our natural pick, the Colts pick, the Cowboys pick, or the Packers pick. So maybe you just organically get into the top 5 and you get a different quarterback that's not Arch Manning. So yeah, there's validity to trying to draft Ruben Bain. All right, we got the pen set up, ready to go here. Make it full screen. All right, first play. This is against Georgia in the Sugar Bowl. We're gonna have a miss on play action slide. I'll play it through and then we'll go back and draw it up. I just want him to hit the guy in the flat. This is a 2nd and 10 situation, and if he just hits the tight end in the flat, he gets to a 3rd and 5. Instead, he kind of forces it to the over route, and it becomes an incomplete. And on 3rd and 10, they're not able to convert. So drawing it up, we have the play action slide. So the tight end is going to run out into the flat, We're going to have this guy running like a corner sail, and then this guy underneath on the crosser, that intermediate crosser, that's where he's looking to throw, right? It looks like at first he wants to throw it to the flat here and then get back to the crosser here. I just want him to hit the first read when it's right there in front of him, allow his guy to go get a couple yards of yak instead of forcing the throw into the second read. Either way, I mean, the decision-making process isn't completely flawed, but on 2nd and 10, when you're just trying to gain some yards, get into a 3rd and manageable, I feel like this is – so like right here, the tight end's looking back on him. That tight end or this linebacker type right here is really pinching down on that play action fake, eyes on the quarterback. If he just flips it out to him right here, he could turn the corner and get maybe out to the 41, 42-yard line, beating that linebacker in space. Maybe he makes a play and he's able to pick up the first down. So that's the first window throw. Now he takes his eyes off the tight end. You see these 2 linebacker types for Georgia crashing in. One's kind of taking the tight end. One looks like he might be more aiming towards Chambliss, and that leaves open this guy over here across the middle. He tries to get it in there. It's a drop. It is a drop in some aspects, obviously. You'll see it from the back angle. It probably could have had better placement, but considering where all the defensive players were surrounding the receiver right here, so boom, he's throwing it. He's obviously trying to throw it before this defender and also not trying to get him killed by this guy. So he throws it, obviously, just a little bit low, and it's incomplete, and it brings up a 3rd and 10. They don't convert the 3rd and 10, and they have to punt. And this was early on in the game, but that was the first sign. The first, I guess, not bad thing of his, but first, like, negative, so to speak. Here we have a 4th and 3, a backside dig. So he's going to get all the way through his progression, hit the backside dig, I think down the bottom of the screen. We'll play it through. Tight end motion. No, so it's at the top of the screen. Gets a lot of yards after catch. So basically what you have is at the top of the screen, the number 2 in the slot here is going to run somewhat of like a bender or like this weird like little seam. It's like kind of a crosser, kind of not. Is it more of like dagger? I'm not quite sure. It's kind of what it draws up to be. I'm not exactly sure what the name of it would be called, but they're both moving from the top of the screen to the bottom on like pseudo crossing type routes. And then you have a vertical from the number 2 and the tight end down at the bottom as the number 1. He stays in on a short route. So it looks like he's working to the bottom of the screen first, and then he goes all the way back up to the top and hits the guy on the lined up all the way at the boundary on the top of the screen. So I think he does a good job of reading the play through. He motions the tight end in. You get a 5-man pressure. The back is in to protect. He picks it up really well. Looks like he's looking for the tight end on this little like speed out, little like whip route, return route at the 41-yard line. And then you have the vertical route, which maybe you could uncork that and hit this guy way down here. It looks like he's kind of bending back in. Let's check it out. Yeah, he bends back in. So maybe if it was more of a post and it was between the hashes, that would be a throw that you could probably look at as your number 2 option. But it looks like he's looking. Chambliss is certainly looking at that guy. Maybe he wanted to throw it toward the sideline. Regardless, he pulls it down. Two Georgia defenders latch on with the first crosser, which leaves the backside dig all alone one-on-one. He gets good separation. This is 4th and 3, mind you, so you have to make a play. Rips it on a rope. What is that, about 22-ish yards? Guy stops on the catch point, turns it upfield, makes a man miss, and gets them inside the 10-yard line. So really good play from Chambliss. We'll see it from the back end. Georgia has a pressure look. They send 5. The back picks it up really well. I love this stuff, from a shorter quarterback. Obviously, being deeper away from the offensive line is going to help you, but when you have clear pockets like this, it doesn't matter what size you are. You're going to be able to see things and rip it in there. So I like this from Chambliss. Hanging tough in a clean pocket, making a throw right down the middle of the field. Allow his player to make a play after the catch. Genergy in the chat, how are we tonight? Appreciate you tuning in. Somebody said Bane reminds them of Carl Lawson with shorter arms. Hopefully he ends up playing a lot longer of his career than Carl Lawson does. So unfortunate what happened to him. Top Cat says Chambliss has electricity to his game. Yeah, absolutely. There is certainly some fun elements to the Ole Miss offense and Chambliss. So that was a great backside dig on 4th down. This one, again, I'm not in the meeting room, so I can't really speak to what the coaching points are on every single play. But it does look like if there is an opportunity to hand the ball off to the back, it would have worked a lot better than keeping the ball himself. So this is, I think, 2 plays later. After that big catch and run, he fakes the handoff and keeps it himself. Now, there's a world where this running back could have beat that player off the C gap or the D gap. Yeah, there's a world where maybe one-on-one this back versus this one defender is, grounds for you to hand it or to keep it if you're Chambliss. And you have the pulling guard who's, entering as the lead blocker. But I'm not sure. I guess maybe I would just trust my running back to make that play. Obviously, it's just a bad design versus the coverage called on defense here by the Bulldogs. But I did think that if there was ever a world where he could have handed that off on the jet sweep, perhaps he could beat that. I guess it's a safety coming down for Georgia. He could beat that safety near the top hash to the edge, and then you get that one-on-one block by the wide receiver at the top of the screen at the goal line. So not going to really, crush Chambliss for it, but also at the same time just wanted to note that perhaps it was a decision-making error based on whatever the coaching point is in the room. Here we have a 4th quarter back shoulder RPO fade. Again, they were a really heavy RPO offense. So we're looking down up at the top of the screen. Does a really good job getting it to his guy one-on-one. So it gets kind of cut off at the top of the screen, but we're looking up top. Press coverage, motions, like split flow inside zones, the RPO. He sees one-on-one. This safety at the hash is really pinched down. So it's one-on-one all the way. You have your opportunity to take a shot. He puts it in a really good spot. You can't really tell, but it's a back shoulder, a front pylon type of throw where the receiver runs and turns his left hip open almost like 270 degrees and catches it really nice there. You'll see it from the back angle, but I really like this stuff. Just being able to read and diagnose, take what the defense is giving you. If you see one-on-one, just pull it and throw it. And he puts it in a great spot right there. Again, it's a little hard to see. The film is a little grainy, but great job putting it on the outside shoulder, the back shoulder for a touchdown. The Georgia game was so much fun, by the way, watching it in real time, watching it back over on the film. A lot of fun from Chambliss. Here we have a press man situation. This is the game-winning drive. We're going to get a fade route from the slot. So we're looking at the number 2 down to the bottom of the screen right here at the 30. Wins outside release, creates separation. Not the best ball placement, right? If he puts it a little bit more outside. I feel like that could have went for a touchdown. We'll play it back. So you have, not quite sure what this concept is called, but you have like an outside fade here. You have a hitch here from the number 1, and then you have a hitch here from the number 3. Sorry for the bad drawing, but you get the outside release here against press coverage. And I want to see Chambliss throw the ball more like out here. Instead, he kind of throws it in here, leads this guy a little bit too inside. He still makes the catch and gets some yards after catch. But I feel like with the separation he had, if you put it on him on the outside upfield shoulder, his left shoulder, right, I feel like he could have had a touchdown potentially. So still a great play from Chambliss, but maybe not a perfect play. So yeah, he wins immediately outside. DB turns his hips, tries to run with him. That's already a yard of separation. So yeah, if you're just putting that ball out here, I'm not going to say it, but you guys know exactly what that is, right? Say it in the chat if you know what it is. He kind of leaves it a little bit more in this way and allows for the DB to catch up with the wide receiver. So right there, he starts bending inside a little bit too far towards the numbers. Put it a little bit more outside, and that's probably a touchdown instead of getting tackled. There you go, Matty P. Appreciate you. We'll see it from the back angle. Motions to 3x1 to our right. Sees it, identifies it. I don't love the footwork there. He's like kind of hoppy, right? So here we go. He's already getting to the – here, we'll drop it all the way back. All the footwork right here. 1, 2, 3. He gets to the back, and he's right here. But, like, what is that little finish? I don't necessarily love that finish. Finishing stance from him, like just drive it through, and like maybe that led to some of the inaccuracy issues. You can even see he bounces on his toes after he makes the throw, just like a little wonky. Like I don't know what type of throw motion that really is, but maybe you put it a little bit more outside and it's a touchdown. Ricky New York Live, appreciate you hopping in the chat, bro. He says, watching this tape last week, the O-line guys tower over him. He's like my height, and you met me, so you know what I'm saying. Yes, yeah, Ricky. I feel like he's doing the tippy toes sometimes in the pocket, and that's why they try to, do the sprint outs, and they try to change his launch angle a lot at Ole Miss, because when you do have shorter quarterbacks, you can't really hang in the pocket that well, and if it collapses on you, it's really hard to see over in those situations, especially when defensive linemen have their hands up. So yeah, it's definitely a harder thing to get around at the NFL level. All right, next one, we have a hot answer versus pressure. It does get dropped. This is now the Fiesta Bowl against Miami. Miami looks like they're going to bring pressure off the top. They do. They drop one out, though. I believe that's a simulated pressure, and he misses the hitch to the short side of the field. But it is a hot answer, which I like. So what I mean by that, and I think this is what the term simulated pressure means. Maybe somebody a little bit smarter than me, if they're in the chat, would tell you. They have 1, 2, 3 D-line types blitzing, and then they have this second leveled blitzer. And then this DN type drops out into coverage, so that you're still sending 4, but it's like a simulated pressure because it's still four rushers at the quarterback. So they are going to, which is really nice and something that I do like and appreciate. I forget if it's the 2 or the 3. I think it's the number 2. He's going to run a hitch, and because of the pressure off that side, he knows that he has to throw where that blitzer is coming, right? You throw the ball to replace the void that the defense just gave you. So I do like that answer from Trinidad Chambliss, right? Right now it looks like it could be man-to-man right across the board with a single high safety. And then the guy with the mouthpiece hanging out right now, boom, he takes one step in on the first clap. And now right there, Chambliss identifies it. Now he thinks only 5 are coming, but at this point, that DN starts dropping out right here. So you have 4 from this side, and it's the number 3. He runs like a little stick route right here. Chambliss throws it with the pressure in his face. This is that free rusher now because he saw them blitzing, right? He identified that pre-snap, so he's throwing to the void that the defender's leaving right here. Unfortunately, it's just dropped, but I do love him hanging tough in that pocket against the second-level blitzer. You'll see it from this angle. I love this stuff from any quarterback, really. Right there, that hand up, he knew. He's like, all right, I see it looks like you're blitzing. I have identified you. Now you have the center and the left guard protecting a double team block. You have a double team on the other. I guess that's the defensive tackle, right? Now you have the free blitzer, but you know you have the answer in the hitch. And unfortunately, while taking that big shot, it's just dropped by the wide receiver. So good on Chambliss, bad on the wide receiver. Really like seeing that type of stuff, having answers to what the defense is giving you. Here we have a near interception to the bottom of the screen. They're going to run like a flood concept. They're going to have a flat route, an intermediate route, and a deep route. So you see it there just between the short and the intermediate route. Start with a stack to the boundary. Motion this guy in. And then they're going to have flood. I would assume this is flood. You have the flat. The out is probably a little deeper than that. And then you have the vertical. And he's gonna try to hit that vertical. And the defense does a good job of reading it. Looks like some version of cover 2, maybe cover 4, based on the cornerbacks just rolling out with the perimeter wide receivers and the 2 high safeties. You see the guy in motion, cuts out, but that defender looks like he's going to try to get to the flat route, but in the meantime, he gets hung up and ends up being in the perfect spot to try to pick that pass off on the out route. Yeah, 23 looks like he was really mad that he couldn't get to that one. You see 23 is like this overhang defender right here. Yeah, he could have jumped it. He's mad at himself for that for sure. He ended up getting beat trying to cover the flat route. I want to go back and watch it one more time. It looks like he got beat trying to get to the flat route and man coverage and just ended up being in the right spot. Yeah, right there. He gets hung up. Right here, he's trying to get down to this guy in the flat, and because of this route, it interrupts him. But then he ends up being in the right place on the out route. So a little bit of unluck for the Ole Miss offense, but a little bit of possibly good luck for the Miami Hurricanes, because that could have been a pick 6. Here we have back shoulder, one-on-one from Chambliss. Top cat height is a problem. Drew Brees used to sprint 7 yards back, then throw. Yeah, I don't know if that's doable in today's age, as we watch Chambliss do kind of the same thing on this deep out. Obviously, he's starting in shotgun. We're looking at the top of the screen. Safety comes down. Now you only have this safety right here. He can't get all the way over here. So if you have one-on-one to the top and you can put it on him back shoulder, there's no way that this safety is going to cover up all that room. Doesn't matter how fast and how rangy they are. But it is pretty concerning that he does drop back pretty far in the pocket. But they have the blitz coming, free blitzer. Again, stands tough in the pocket. Guy tries to get in the throwing lane. He gives his guy a chance. He goes up over the DB, and quite frankly, he just mosses him on the left sideline. Yeah, Matthew, I see you in the chat. Kenyon Sadiq did declare for the 2026 draft, and as we see it from the back angle, that's just a great throw from Trinidad Chambliss with the free rusher in his face. This right here from the DB, this little you got to just run straight at the quarterback, man. If you have that opportunity, if that's your blitz, you don't stop. I get it. The running back could have had the ball, but you got to go right for the quarterback, in my opinion. Maybe I'm being a little too harsh on the defender, but He had a free rusher barreling down on him, and he still makes a really good throw deep down the left sideline. But yeah, back to Kenyon Sadiq. It is interesting. A lot of the Ducks are going back to school on the defensive side of the ball, and a lot of the offensive players are, I guess, either transferring or declaring for the NFL draft. So make of that what you will for the Dante Moore side of things, but I think it is kind of interesting. Here we have an RPO near interception on a stare down. They motion to a 2x2. RPO looks like curl to flat. Sometimes I guess that's called like Hank in some offenses. So it starts as a 3x1 to the bottom. They motion that guy across. I believe that's a wide receiver type. But it ends up being just a flat route and a curl route. Stares it down the whole way, almost gets intercepted. This safety drops down really nicely into the throwing lane. I guess we'll see it from the back angle, but it looked like he was staring it down the whole way at the mesh point. Perhaps you could have gotten to the flat route, but you're probably reading it from curl to flat, right? You're reading it from high to low. So it's the right read, but I think he stared it down a little bit. Yeah, Grenade, that's a great point. I think every defender is thinking about him breaking out of the run, so hedges their bet. Yeah, you have to. And like I said, that's the part of, the chessboard style of football that I love. It's like, obviously they're trying to make the best play possible for their team, but a split-second decision is like, do I stay home on the quarterback or do I stay home on the running back? Like whatever that coaching point is, I don't know. But yeah, I 100% agree. They end up hedging their bets in real time, and sometimes that's the split second needed that the offense can take advantage with. So we'll see the stare down on the RPO from this angle, right? He's obviously looking at the mesh point the whole way. He probably could have just handed this ball off. I forget the down and distance, to be completely honest with you guys, but could have handed it off the whole way. It's hard to tell, but it looked like it was telegraphed the whole way on the other angle. So one of two near interceptions on stare downs. I don't think I put the first one in here, but Jets fandom says Trinidad overrated. Pass. He's a wannabe Kyler Murray. He will measure under 6 feet tall. I agree with you on the last part. He'll probably measure under 6 feet tall. Overrated, it's really hard to say. I think some have him rated as a 4th-round prospect, so I don't know. I guess if you're looking at it from a specific first round or top 50 lens, then yeah, he would definitely be overrated in my opinion. But wannabe Kyler Murray, that's tough. I mean, Kyler Murray went first overall and has some pretty crazy traits. Not saying Trinidad would be or won't be Kyler Murray, but you could definitely see the comparison from a body type, somewhat of a stylistically. I don't really think he uncorks the deep ball like Kyler does, but there's elements of the game that definitely are compatible. Yeah, I don't think he plays as much backyard ball. Kyler is definitely more of an improviser. Time to throw is definitely more is increased with Kyler versus a guy like Trinidad. Trinidad can play with timing. It's just the physical limitations in terms of size that sometimes they have to work around at Ole Miss. Top Cat, the RPO helps the run game so much, and Chambliss has the athletics to do it. Yeah, and that's definitely an element to it. His mobility, his escapability is certainly really good. And if you watch the Fernando Mendoza-led Indiana offense, they sprinkle in a ton of RPO and zone read stuff just to keep you honest. And when Mendoza does get out, like, you have to account for it, and a lot of times they don't, and he can kill you for 7 to 12 yards. And Chambliss has that element, but also on like a higher level, like it's more advanced because he's faster and can beat you to the edge, but also can, run the QB counters and powers and things of that nature. 110 of you guys in the room. I really appreciate it. Hit the like button. Subscribe if you're new. We are about an hour in talking about Trinidad Chambliss, his decision to try to go back to school for a 6th season, what it would look like if he does come out in the draft. Kyle Clifton, I'm not sure. I I don't take part in those activities that would lead to babies being formed. So I don't know where they come from. Maybe the stork brings them in like a nice little wrapped blanket to your door, but that's a tough one, Kyle. I'll have to do some research and get back to you on that one, but appreciate you tuning in, bro. Again, this episode is not brought to you by DoorDash. I quickly got out of that business. I don't want to go back. So super chats are appreciated. The second I got done with the Ty Simpson film last week, it was demonetized immediately. Mr. Tube said, haha, joke's on you, DT. It's not going to work. Here, I'll jump back in full screen for this one. I'll answer a couple more questions. Like Grenade says, DT, quick question. When you see guys in this kind of offense, what makes you feel the guy can transition to the pro offense like Dart, maybe Chambliss, or another guy in a system like this? Yeah, like I said, kind of at the top, it's not like watching Alabama. It's not like watching Oregon or Indiana. They're definitely different style offenses. I wish I had all the answers to what translates the best to the NFL in terms of college. I don't have all those answers. I don't know enough about the college concepts and things of that, like who runs what type of offense, but it doesn't look like a lot of Ole Miss can be super translatable to the NFL level if I just had to guess. But again, I mean, certain quarterbacks like Dart in that same offense, he made it out pretty fine, and he can run, different types of offenses. So are you just kind of trapped by what you are taught at your school? Like, are you only, pigeonholed into that one system, or can you actually blossom and do, multiple different systems across the NFL once you get to that level? So it is really tough to say what exactly transitions, but I would say less of Ole Miss transitions than Alabama and Oregon. Hell yeah, get our boy out of DoorDash. Yeah, it's tough. You guys were super grateful last week. I made some pretty good money. I'm definitely on my way to making my best money this month on YouTube. So again, I greatly, greatly appreciate every single person tuning in, giving me some of your time. Shout out my boy Kev in the chat. Stork believer here. Absolutely. I think there's some validity to this, Kev. I'll be honest. Fandom says, I hope Moore doesn't declare so we could take BPA like Reese, build the team, and take a late round quarterback. To me, late round quarterback is setting a pick on fire. Like, what are you doing with a third round quarterback, a fourth round quarterback, a fifth round quarterback? Like, and people say Shedeur was a fifth round pick, but it's different circumstances. His talent didn't warrant that. I want all the quarterbacks to come out, and like maybe Dante Moore comes out and the Jets just don't like him and they flip picks with like the Cardinals, or they go down to 6 with the Cleveland Browns or something like that, and they're able to allocate more picks, and maybe they do land a Reese at pick 6 instead of pick 2. So I wouldn't necessarily pigeonhole into the BPA at 2. Maybe they could try to do some things if they don't like the quarterbacks. Okay, late round is in second round, fandom. Okay. I thought like late round is in like outside the top 100. That's what I was more assuming. Aller, Nussmeier, and who was that? Mateer in the second? Yeah. Mateer's going back to school. I have that on good authority. Our guy Wilpa plugged in. Jim Nagy, former Senior Bowl director, now the general manager at Oklahoma, and Will has family members on staff down in Norman. So have it on good authority that Mateer has upped with the Sooners. Nussmeier, he will be in Senior Bowl. I'm very excited. He can separate himself for sure from the group of quarterbacks passing down to Mobile. And Drew Aller, tough story with the injury, and unfortunate that he didn't come out last year because he probably would have made himself a lot more money. Oh, like Grenade, I appreciate the $5 super chat. Thank you. Don't need one of my favorite Jet YouTubers getting mugged. Keep getting the analysis going and stop wasting gas money. Absolutely, Grenade. That was really the whole crux of it, right? Is I don't want to, it's like means to an end. Like, I guess like DoorDash was just paying for my car maintenance and my gas at the end of the day. Like, it really wasn't, fulfilling paying a bill, which I can see, the YouTube path at least providing me, some of the funds to pay for the subscriptions I use to do the research for some of these podcasts and things of that nature. So certainly appreciate it, Grenade. Luckily, I don't live in a terrible area. I live close to downtown where I live, but it's really not a bad area, but I do appreciate it. You always got to keep that 9 on you, the 9 iron. I always keep my golf clubs on me. Eli says, draft Nuss, so when he sucks, we can bully Allen and blame him. Oh, God. I don't like to bully Allen. I like to disagree with Allen somewhat civilly. Sometimes we yell at each other a little bit. But it's all love with Allen. I can definitely talk shop more like around the draft with Allen. We disagree. We disagree a lot more with the Jets for sure. But yeah, Nussmeier, I mean, I hope he doesn't suck if we draft him, obviously. But then we just go get his QB1, Lenore Sellers, in 2027, and all is right with the world. Kyle Clifton, I appreciate you, man. $10 super chat. He says, I just want to keep you honest, DT. I don't love Chambliss, but always interested to watch. Kyle, I appreciate it. I know not all the film dives are going to be everybody's flavor. I mainly wanted to do this as a precursor to Friday's episode, which is going to be a live session around 6:30, 7 p.m. Again, I'm going to go on. It's going to be a little bit of a shorter version, probably stick it close to the hour. Instead of this is Mike going to run like maybe 90 minutes. But Friday is the tale of the tape, Trinidad Chambliss versus Ty Simpson. I have the graphic already pulled up. I'll get that ready for you guys to sneak peek at the end of the show. But I am really excited about the Friday show. And then I will have Dom C on in a pre-recorded, which will hit your feed. I want to say Saturday morning. I don't want to do Sunday morning and not have content for Saturday unless there's Jets-related news. Then it might come out on Sunday, but I will definitely be hitting you guys with some Dom C on the feed in a short time here. Let me remove this so I can show you exactly what I'm talking about. Boom. Trinidad Chambliss versus Ty Simpson. My quarterback 3 versus my quarterback 4 currently in this draft process. So that is what we have to look forward to on Friday. 120 of you in the chat. Certainly appreciate you guys, whether you're on X, Twitter, YouTube, whatever it is. I appreciate everybody for tuning in. And Kyle, thanks again for the $10 super chat. Fandom, no way Jets take Dante Moore. If he's there, if they trade down in that situation, I'd be highly impressed. It depends how much they like Dante Moore. Darren Muji attended at least 3 games in person of Dante Moore. I know on good authority he attended 4 games in person of Fernando Mendoza. They have sent scouting execs and other personnel members of the scouting department to Oregon more than 3 times. They are doing their due diligence on Ty Simpson, on Dante Moore, on Fernando Mendoza. Excuse me. And if they don't like the guy, they will probably try to entertain trade down offers. Maybe you hear a lot of smoke about them liking Dante Moore, and it's not true. And they end up doing that just to drum up some interest in the pick, and they end up getting out, and it was never their guy. We gotta see how the process plays out. I don't want to say no way they don't take Dante or no way they do take Dante. There's a world. There's worlds where things happen, and if they trade down and they tell us all along that wasn't really their guy, then so be it. Talking about more needing more playing time, but there's never any talk about him taking an extra year to sit behind Gabriel. Why is there never any value added to a guy sitting? Well, I think people will credit Ty Simpson for sitting and waiting his turn with the Crimson Tide, but then in the same mindset, ignore the fact that Dante Moore did it when he was 19 with Dylan Gabriel. So I think it's just a matter of how you look at that. That is a very good point. If you sit and become a backup, then perhaps there is more to learn after being a starter somewhere, taking the reins as a backup and then going back up as the starter in that 4th year or 3rd year. So yeah, there's definitely elements of that. And I don't think people are talking about that as much, whereas it's looked at as a positive talking point with Ty Simpson because he stayed at Alabama as the backup. Would I trade a pick with Cleveland for Shedeur? No. I don't want the circus of Shedeur here. I mean, he's a talented quarterback. When I was live with Jake during day 3 of the draft, our 5.5-hour show, I said, at some point, you got to take a flyer on the guy. I thought maybe in the 4th round they would try if you're the Jets, but do we really think Shadur Sanders and all the attention that he brings is really the best answer for this team? I don't know. And like, what is the draft pick? I don't know. Like, I would give up a 5th or a 4th, but I'm not giving up anything higher. We don't have a 3rd round pick, and I'm not giving up any of our top 44 assets. Ty, I'm starting to lean with you here. I don't know if I would draft him. He's looking like a 3rd to 4th round pick. Whatever pick Dylan Gabriel was, I think it was like 60th or 70th, which is like mid-3rd round. That's more of the range. Maybe he was even like 84th. I'll have to look that up, but that's kind of the range that I'm looking at him in, which is funny. Undersized passer, highly overproductive passer in college. Like Grenade. By the way, what led you to calling Will Shill Parkinson? I know there's a funny story behind that. So last Thursday on Jake's show, we were getting into it. We were disagreeing a little bit about the team, and Will had called in to special guest referee, and he called in and it said Glenn Shill as his name on the StreamYard. And when he popped up, I just immediately thought Shill Parkinson because it rhymed with his name, and he was leaning into the whole Shill thing. I don't think Will is a shill. I will say this about Will. I greatly respect his opinions and his insight. I've never met somebody more plugged in this space in person. Will is somebody I've met in person that is super plugged into the football world, like in a way that I would love to be. Like, I'm not trying to like glaze the guy or anything, but I met him in Mobile several times and at a couple other Jets events, but he walked into a bar with like all of the NFL and ESPN media, like a big group of them. Like it was like Lindsey Rhodes, Matt Miller, Jeremy Fowler, Ian Rappaport, a couple other people, Tom Pelissero, excuse me, and then Will Parkinson, just like in this group of people. So it was like truly crazy to see like how he operates and like networks in real time. So I have nothing but respect for Will, and everything I said was completely out of jest, and I appreciate Will. Ooh, this is a good question, Leon. What differences do you see DT from Chambliss, Fields, and Murray? I know that you haven't seen Doug Flutie, another dynamic, diminutive dual threat. Yeah, I mean, Doug Flutie only in spurts of like highlights and things of that nature when like the jerseys were super big on players. Chambliss and Murray is definitely more of the closer comp just due to size and how they throw the ball. I would still think Kyler Murray throws one of the craziest deep pass like ever in the league. Not ever, but like currently in the league, it just throws off his hands so effortlessly, even going back to Oklahoma. Justin Fields is more of a dual threat. Like he's just a bigger body type, and he's like a physical runner, whereas Chambliss is not a physical runner, even though he is slightly compact. But yeah, I would say the closest thing is Kyler Murray. The differences with Fields would really just be size, and I don't think Fields plays with any sort of timing where Chambliss does. Yeah, Leon, it was a side hustle. It was like a 3A job, right? I have my normal day job. I have this. I have the Believe in Jets, and then I have DoorDash and Instacart on the side. So we're always trying to stay busy and get the money flowing in, but I want to dedicate more time to this. So do I think Tanner would prefer a mobile quarterback or more of a Goff pocket type? That could determine who the Jets draft and sign at quarterback. Yes, I certainly agree with this premise. I would lean more towards the latter, like a Goff pocket guy. I just think that it makes more sense when he talks about timing, rhythm, getting to the back of your drop, seeing a guy open, throwing it on your first hitch. Justin Fields is the antithesis of that, right? And they leaned into it. Oh, we're going to coach him up and allow him to play quarterback, which he's never done. And now we know why teams never let him play quarterback, because he can't do it. So it was a bad marriage, I think. And I don't want to say it was forced upon Tanner Engstrand, like it was solely AG's decision, but I hope that at least moving forward, whether it's publicly or privately, we know that Tanner Engstrand has more sway and decision making in that quarterback process, at least. BG, Boy Green, what's up, man? He says you're killing a DT. Dylan freaking Tereman. Yes, sir. I appreciate you, man. Shout out to you and Lurch, the contest winnings. I'm very excited to display the Joe Namath, John Riggins magazine when it comes in the mail. Shout out to BG. Go follow his channel, Boy Green 25, as well as the Man Child Show. Ooh, this is a great question. What's my favorite part of being down in Senior Bowl, closing in? One, just physically being in the same space as some of the people that I look up to the most in this space. Connor Rogers. I always joke with him that it's not officially Senior Bowl week until I get to shake his hand and talk to him for a couple minutes. And he's a bucket list item of mine. It's my 5th year going down here, so I've had minimum five conversations in person, or 4 with Connor Rogers. And this year, the 5th year, I will drum up the balls to ask him to come on the podcast. He's one of the busiest men in the draft space, but he is a bucket list item for sure. So I would say being able to, be right there with the guys on the sidelines in practice. Also, when you go out at night, like you go to the Haberdasher, me and Glenn Naughton a couple years ago, shout out to Glenn from Jet Nation, we were sitting at dinner having steak, and the table behind us was like Jay Mandolesi, Robert Stiegel, a couple other guys. I think maybe Andy Davis was at the table right behind us in Mobile at the Haberdasher. So we really you don't want to go up and bother them, but you when they walk by, you see they got all their Jets their bag and gear on, and you just give them a nod and a hey, what's up, because you're probably wearing your Jets gear too. So that's the second coolest part, is when you go out at night and you just you're walking on the street, and all of a sudden you're watching who is it, Kwesi Adofo-Mensah. One of the years he got turned down from a club. They were at capacity, or a bar was at capacity, and the bouncer had to tell him no thank you, we're full. Not knowing, obviously, it's the Vikings GM, and they, it's not their responsibility to know that. But it was funny, hearing stories like that, because you're just walking down the street, and all of a sudden, who is it? Thomas Dimitroff was walking right by with all some of the former GMs, and then that was pretty cool too. And then the on-field player interviews between practices, that's a lot of fun too. It gets a little hectic down there, and the amount of I don't want to say small time media, but not main market media that goes down on the field is really hectic. And if you want a guy that you're really dead set on trying to talk to, you might only get a couple questions in, or you might not get to talk to that guy at all. So I would say the practice sidelines is the most fun, because you get to see all your favorite draft analysts. The outside, the nightlife down in Mobile, when you could just walk around downtown bar to bar, that's definitely fun. And then the third would be the on-player interviews. But that's a great question, Paul. I appreciate you. Jay Rose, who's your favorite MLB team? I don't have one. So I say that because I don't really follow baseball. So if I had to pick a team, I'm from the North, and I grew up watching the Yankees a lot. So I would just default to that. But I say I don't really have a baseball team, because I feel like any person that says I don't watch baseball, I'm a Yankees fan, it's just a total cop-out. So I would just say I don't have one. I do have a lot of baseball players on my tree. Not that anybody gives a shit, but I have Jackie Robinson, Sammy Sosa, Ken Griffey, Mickey Mantle. Who else we got down there? Mark McGuire. We got a couple cool baseball players on the tree, which the tree is coming down tomorrow, folks. I'm not one of those heathens that keep it up. I have a specific date, January 14th, every year. It's my dog's birthday, so I use it as an excuse to keep it up till his birthday. But the tree is coming down tomorrow afternoon. Let's see what else we got. No, Taylor, I haven't looked up the definition yet. No, I cleared the air with Yo Holmes. That was tough. I felt like I couldn't get through to him, and he couldn't get through to me at times. So it was okay. If he's in the chat, Yo Holmes, I appreciate you. We figured it out at the end. I was trying to say there's no alignment with GMs across the league versus consensus. That was a tough one. So, Oscar, I haven't watched any of the offensive linemen yet. I don't. So, what I try to do is I look at like mock drafts and like clusters of positions, like high end quarterbacks, wide receivers, edge positions, because I feel like that's where the Jets are going to target. I don't know like where this guy's range is to be, and I don't think we need tackles, so I probably won't do work on him unless people are starting to say, well, Markel Bell is just going to go inside to guard at like a third or fourth round evaluation. Then I'll go in and I'll look at some of those guards, but that's just a peek at my process. I look at like where the hot spots are, at least in my opinion, for positions for the Jets, and then I try to look at those positions first. And I'm very far behind. I've only done wide receivers and quarterbacks. I have to do edge rushers and really step up the game. Let's see what else we got. Yeah, Leon Connor is certainly one of my favorites in this business. No, I do not have a South Carolina accent. I am from New Jersey, like Western New Jersey, like on the border of Pennsylvania. I guess it would be North Jersey. Somerset County is where I was born, and then I ended up moving more and more west as I got older. And then I moved down here in 2018 for a couple years, and then I moved back down here for a second stint starting in April. So no, I do not have a South Carolina accent, and I get called a damn Yankee all the time, which is hilarious. Leon, love your suggestion of Bill Musgrave as the quarterback's coach and senior offensive assistant. In that respect, what do you think of Pete Carmichael, the former Saints OC, who is on Denver's staff? I don't know what his title is on Denver's staff, but if it was not a lateral move, then I feel like the Jets should entertain it. I have a spreadsheet of all the NFL coaching staff and GM, head coach, coordinators, and then I included this morning, I added in a quarterbacks coach tab because I wanted to see like who the quarterback coaches are around the league. I like Bill Musgrave. I like Mark Brunell. I like, Davis Webb, also from Denver. It's hilarious. Bo Hardigree is the quarterback's coach in Tennessee with Cam Ward. He was an assistant with the Jets. Obviously, Josh McCown and the Vikings. Gotta love Charles London with the Jets. That's a joke. Nobody come after me. Greg Olson from the Raiders, who was the interim OC, I also like. Sean Mannion from the Packers, I would take him as a former quarterback. Scott Tolzien, who is with the Saints as the quarterback coach. And Mick Lombardi from the 49ers, I would also take as a quarterback's coach. So there's definitely ways for the Jets to go about this position. I'm not sure exactly what they're looking for and how quickly they're going to move on the position. I'm a little nervous that there's a chance Charles London stays and they just add around him, which doesn't really inspire a lot of confidence. But yeah, Pete Carmichael could be a name too, depending on what his title is. And you have the Saints, Broncos, AG kind of crossover there. So yeah, not a terrible one. Let's see. Haven't missed any of the chats. Oh, here we go. David D., our resident Lions fan. Dylan, what is your take of Ravens quarterback coach T. Martin? He's one of the candidates for the Lions OC job. Okay, T. Martin, he's been there since 2023. So he came in at the same time as Todd Monken. And I think Todd Monken has given Lamar Jackson some of his better years at quarterback. I don't know what role T. Martin specifically has in that, but I know I've seen his names floated around for promotions before, as recent, I believe, as last year. So there is a world where maybe he does, latch on as an OC. I'm intrigued because the Lions also interviewed Mike McDaniel for the OC job. And if he doesn't get a head coaching job, that would be really cool to see Mike McDonald work with all of the Lions weapons that they have there. So that would be really interesting, but I don't have like a ton of notes on T. Martin specifically. Fandom, does Reese compare to Parsons? That's a tough one. I need to do the full D-line study of like Arvell Reese and Ruben Bain and do the tail of the tape of those two guys. And then David Bailey, Keldrick Falk, those types of guys too. I really need to like study those top guys. He is more of a tweener, so that does like kind of fit the Parsons like narrative, right? Is he as much of a game changer? I don't think so. I mean, Parsons wasn't that much of like, I mean, yes, he wreaked havoc at Penn State, but it felt like he got only better at the NFL level. So it's hard to say that Reese is like comparable to Parsons, but the tweener version of their game, sure. I don't know what the measurables stack up to be, like what like arm length is and things of that nature. First step explosiveness, that's probably the one trait that I look at the most, and Parsons has that in spades. He's just so fast, and we'll see. But I think Arvell Reese, if I had to guess, is probably not going to turn out to be as good as Micah Parsons. All right, let's see. How many more plays did I have? All right, I got 2 more plays at Trinidad Chambliss, and then we'll wrap it up here. As always, hit the like button, subscribe if you are new to the channel. Just over 1,300 subscribers. We're on our way to 1,400. The ultimate goal right now is 2,000 subs, and then we will try to find a cool giveaway prize to get to you guys for being an incredible community. All right, 2 more plays of Chambliss. Here we have a quarterback run where he does this like Josh Allen, I'm going to pitch it, no, I'm going to run it, kind of fake on the defender here. Yes, Kyle, or big fella, I appreciate you. Hit the like button. Listen to the big fella. Belly's on the bed, like buttons all around for everybody. Appreciate you, big fella. Here we have the run from Chambliss. Fakes the snap, gets out of there. Right there, he's putting this defender in conflict. Is he going to pitch it to the back? The back certainly is selling it like he's going to pitch it. Maybe there's a world where he actually was going to pitch it. Ends up keeping it. Getting a lot of extra yards after the first down as well. So you definitely love to see this from Chambliss, showing off his mobility, his escape ability, because at first it's just a regular play action. He's looking at the center of the field. Looks like he's looking at this guy coming across the middle with this defender over top of him, this defender underneath him, and the referee always in the way. So very inconvenient there. So he pulls it down and runs. He's getting chased by that defensive tackle type. Boom, he's going to fake the pitch out to the back, widen that defender, and then work up the field for an extra 10 yards after the catch. Appreciate you, fandom. Thanks for hopping in. Hope to see you back on Friday. All right, then the last one. This is the go-ahead touchdown against Miami. Obviously, they lost the game, but this is one of my favorite plays. Similar to the one before where he had the hot answer. They have 4 down linemen. Corner up top is bailing off. This overhang defender with the high black socks, he's going to look like he's pressuring. Chambliss identifies it, knows he's hot. Right there, he's creeping in. They do a really good job of blocking it up. He hits the corner route to the tight end wide open. It looks kind of like a scissors concept. Maybe not quite. You're getting a post from the number 1. The number 2 is doing a speed out to the top, and then the tight end is the number 3. He's running a corner. Maybe it is slightly like scissors with the post and then the corner. But either way, that tight end finds space. Chambliss does a great job in the pocket, hanging in. Good job by the tackle. I believe that's Akeem Mesidor to the bottom of the screen. Great bend right there. Senior Bowl player who I'm excited to watch. Gets the ball out right before the pressure arrives. Go-ahead touchdown with, I believe, a minute something left. Okay, 3 minutes left in the game, yeah. And then obviously Carson Beck went down the field, rushed it in for the go-ahead game-winning touchdown. But right here, yeah, left tackle's getting beat a little bit here. Okay, so this is Ruben Bain, all right? For the people that tell me that his arms are too short. He swipes, kind of misses the swipe too even. Right there, right? Swipes and tries to dip low underneath that left tackle. Wins with bend, wins with speed. He honestly might have even gotten held a little bit there on his left shoulder. When the offensive tackle throws his hands back like that, it looks like he knows he did something wrong. So Bain, with his little T-Rex arms, was still able to win that rep, in my opinion. So that's what I mean when I say I don't see a ton of reps where Bain loses because of length. And that's kind of what I'm sticking with until somebody brings me the evidence that he loses that way. So that is the end of the Trinidad Chambliss film. I will hang out for a couple more minutes. I know I'm about at the 90-minute mark. Again, hit the like button, subscribe if you're new. Friday, we are doing the tail of the tape, Ty Simpson versus Trinidad Chambliss. I'm really excited for that one. Going to be the first of the tail of the tapes where we stack up all the traits, right? 10 traits: accuracy, arm strength, size, mobility, escapability, decision-making, poise, mechanic release, anticipation, leadership to a degree, kind of, filling in the gray with the leadership, but you really just see what's publicly said about these guys and how the teammates respond to what they do. And that's kind of how you culminate the leadership there. But really excited for that one. Appreciate you, Leon. He says, great job, Dylan. Thank you. Cisco says, I think tank for Taiwan. We'll have to see on Friday how they stack up. Right now, I will tell you, Ty Simpson is my quarterback 3, and Trinidad is my quarterback 4. How close are they, right? Is Trinidad close to being my quarterback 3? It's really tough. The film it's so fun. Like, I don't know. I really enjoy watching Trinidad, but I also understand the limitations. And I also enjoyed Ty Simpson for what it's worth. Like Grenade, my issue with Bain isn't arm length, it's ability to redirect at the point of attack. Too many plays where he's right there, QB slides, and he whiffs on finishing plays. Yeah, that's what I want to dive into, because when I see him like in those little cut-ups on X, you don't get the full body of work. So I want to see what happens on those reps as well. And I'm excited to get into him and Mesidor, both on the Miami D line. Strongest arm in the draft, I think it's Ty Simpson. I think Ty Simpson has the most arm strength, but it doesn't come with deep ball accuracy. I would say then maybe Dante Moore and then Fernando Mendoza. But I really will. What we'll do with the tail of the tape, what I was planning on doing is whoever wins the battle between Simpson and Trinidad, will bump them up and go against Dante Moore, who's my quarterback 2. So we'll see like the step up in the gaps between all the guys. So yeah, we'll stack it all up with the arm strength and stuff, and then I'll do a big 3 at the end: Mendoza, Moore, Simpson, and I'll list all 10 of their traits, who has the highest, who's in the middle, who has the lowest, and we'll really stack all 3 of them up against each other. But right now, I would say Ty Simpson has the best arm strength. I saw him rip a 62-yard air throw against South Carolina. It was dropped. It was right in the bucket, and it was one of the first plays I saw on tape. And it's like one of those where you're sitting back watching tape, and you perk up a little bit. You're like, whoa, okay, 62 yards on like the second drive of the game against South Carolina. Let's see what we got here in a Ty Simpson. That's hilarious. Takes 5 business days to redirect. If his change of direction is bad, then obviously it's tough. Like if he's like, muck boots on Michael Clemens style, I don't see it being that bad. But yeah, it's pressures isn't always the best thing, but also, pressure is good at the same time. So it's hard to, say definitively. Like I said, we'll get into the edge rushers. But yeah, maybe some people are off him on second overall. That's fair. This class doesn't have a ton of blue chippers. It probably has below mean in terms of blue chippers and first round grades. So we'll have to see how it all stacks out. Leon, we'll end it on this one. Jets have to consider wide receiver at 2. It's not that high. Titans, Giants, and Browns will be targeting Tate, Tyson 4, 5, and 6. I am 100% okay with the New York Jets drafting any of the 3 top receivers at number 2, right? If they know that they can wait a little bit on Ty Simpson, right? Maybe they can get past I don't want to call it the gauntlet of quarterback needy teams at the top of the draft. But if they know and they have like done their research, and that's going to be on Darren Muji, right? That's the onus on him, is to find out all these simulations and all these permutations of draft scenarios to say, can I risk, moving back from 2 off of Dante Moore for, a trade back scenario, or do I stick and pick at 2 and think I can get my quarterback at 16? Do I have to trade up with a combination of 33 or 44 and another pick to get a quarterback in like the early 20s? That's going to be for Darren Muji to decide, but I would totally take Mekhi Lemon with the second overall pick because this class is so weird. I would take Carnell Tate with the second pick. I would take Jordan Tyson, but unfortunately, like, you can't turn the injury sliders off. And I really wish that, the hamstring, the soft tissue, and then the ACL, MCL, PCL, he's 3 years removed from that, but also like it's there. Like, that's his injury history. But no, I agree with you. I would take a wide receiver at 2 and not look back, especially if they satiate the quarterback need via free agency or trade. I would totally load up with playmakers. I am an advocate of premium players taken with premium picks. So I'm talking about your first 3 picks, or first 3 round picks, excuse me. Even like if you're picking like the Jets in the high 4s, like a top 120, 125 pick, I still consider that slightly premium. So that's when you can start to get a little, with the tertiary needs in terms of position importance, like linebacker and safety, running back. You can entertain those in the 4th round, but premium positions at premium picks is certainly going to be my narrative forever with the draft. Go get your tackles, go get your edge rushers, go get your disruptor D tackles even, right? I would put those over your linebackers and safeties. Go get your wide receivers, go get your corners, go get your quarterbacks. Those are your premium positions, at least in my opinion. Cornerback is probably the lowest of those premium positions, but you get the point. Premium picks, premium positions. We'll leave it at that. I appreciate everybody for tuning in. Hour and a half on Trinidad Chambliss. We will be back Friday on the channel with the live Tale of the Tape, Ty Simpson versus Trinidad Chambliss. So make sure you come back and check that one out. And then we'll be pre-recorded with Dom C sometime over the weekend on your feed, talking Senior Bowl and a little bit of national championship. Really excited to get Dom on the channel again. He's definitely going to be one of my favorite guests to have on throughout this process. So thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Hit the like button. Subscribe if you're new. We're on the way to 1,400. Probably putting this up on Believe portions of this. So if you're hearing this on audio only, hit the 5-star rating and review, and certainly helps go show your support for the channel over there as well, the audio only format of my shows. With that, DT signing off saying happy drafting, Jets fans. Let's go.